is Alyse. Alyse is a software developer with a very interesting background, including work in AI, blockchain, and transhumanism. Alyse has been very much involved in startups, with her startup Genomics being selected into both the University of Sydney's Incubate and HCS Catalyst Startup Accelerator. Welcome, Alyse.
Well, hello and thanks for having me here tonight, and welcome to how transhumanist technologies are impacting the built environment. So the point I'd like to make is transhumanist technology is already impacting us through artificial intelligence, blockchain and robotics. But in the very near future, the technologies we'll have to look out for are artificial general intelligence, gene editing and brain-computer interfaces. So you're probably wondering, what is transhumanism? Well, it's really about overcoming the limitations of human biology using science and technology. So it's a mindset about how you can actively apply technologies to enhance yourself cognitively and physically. And there's 3 pillars to transhumanism, which include super longevity, super well-being, and super intelligence. So for super intelligence, DeepMind, which is an artificial general intelligence research company owned by Google, is a perfect example. How artificial general intelligence differs from today's narrow AI is that it could potentially reason, act, and think just like a human. So it will be like a sentient being. So you've probably heard about Ron talking about China's social credit score system already. Well, that's being powered by a combination.
Oh, watch out for the sentience.
So that's being powered by a combination of artificial intelligence technologies, including facial recognition and natural language processing. So they're taking camera data feeds from the street, public transport, work, and probably even your home if you have one of those home devices. It's also taking in data from your bank accounts, your social media accounts, your Spotify, Netflix as well, and it's creating this perfect profile of you and assigning you a social credit score. Now your score can actually affect if you can move between places and whether you have access to services like schools and hospitals as well. So one story is the founder of Ofo Bikes. He founded a bike sharing company and he had to declare bankruptcy because his startup wasn't going very well. So that actually affected his social credit score in China, and that meant that he couldn't even buy a train ticket to ride the train, and he couldn't even hire a bike to ride either. So this is a perfect example of how artificial intelligence can actually affect what services people have access to and how people move around in a particular city or country or even around the world. The next pillar is super longevity, and Editas, which is a gene editing research company founded by George Church up there, is a perfect example. So they're developing gene-based therapies. They're building gene-based therapies for genetic diseases. And you can imagine in the future they'll also probably be developing things for babies as well. So potentially we could be selecting the hair and eye color of our offspring, and also maybe the intelligence level and the personalities of our children as well. So in China, a researcher actually edited out a gene that was related to HIV in 2 twin babies. And he is currently under house arrest at the moment because of the negative backlash against him. This type of technology, like gene editing through CRISPR-Cas9, can affect whether people want to have babies, and if so, how many they're going to have and when they're going to have it, and also affect what type of infrastructure we need to build within cities. The third and last pillar is super well-being. So Neuralink is a brain-computer interface company that was founded by Elon Musk. It is working on a product called Neuralace, and he announced some pretty interesting developments last night. So this neural lace is a ultra-thin mesh that is implanted or injected into your brain, and eventually it will spread out over your brain and just merge with your biological brain. So the announcement that he made is that he has developed these ultra-thin threads, which are thinner than your hair, which make it less invasive when you inject it inside. And also to inject those threads or to mold it with your brain, he has also developed or is developing some nanobots as well. And the purpose of doing this is first to help people who are paralyzed regain their mobility. So what this brain-computer interface allows us to do is upload and download information directly to and from our brains. And it will also allow us to share our emotions and experiences with other people as well. So this will actually affect how people move around between places, also whether they travel, how people connect, how people form communities, and what type of services you need to build around that. Up here is the Gartner hype cycle. This maps the peaks and troughs of the technologies that I talked about. So at the very left, you can see that's the innovation trigger. So that's where things are still in the R&D labs, still quite new, but eventually it moves up towards that curve, and that is reaching the peak of inflated expectations. So that means there's a lot of investment into these technologies from big tech companies like Google and Amazon. And eventually, at some point, these companies don't really see very much of a return on investment, so it hits that trough of disillusionment. However, some technologies, like the ones that I talked about just then, will eventually make it out of that trough and reach the mainstream and be adopted into your work and your home. So these are emerging tech industries affecting the built environment. They include space tech, biotech, and virtual worlds. In relation to space tech, we have planet terraforming. So Stephen Hawking has predicted that in 100 to 200 years, Earth will become too warm to live on. So Elon Musk has proposed a solution. He says that we need to go up to Mars and nuke the North and South poles and warm up the planet so humans can start inhabiting it. And he says that we're so good at global warming on Earth, so why not do it on Mars? Also for asteroid and moon mining, we have Deep Space Industries and Planetary Resources, being two companies who are developing technologies to take minerals and resources back from the asteroids and also the moon back down to Earth. And each of these asteroids is worth trillions of dollars. So if they are able to bring these resources back to Earth, it could potentially make everyone on Earth a millionaire, if they choose to share the wealth. For space tourism, Virgin Galactic, who is about to go public, they are offering ordinary citizens the chance to travel space. It will potentially be offered for about the price of $300,000 to start with, but you can imagine that in a couple of years, it will probably be about the price of a plane ticket from New York to London. And for satellite broadband, I believe Ron also talked about broadband earlier. So Starlink is a project that is being run by Elon Musk, SpaceX. He has launched a couple of thousand satellites into space already. Now this satellite broadband will offer much faster speeds than our current NBN network can offer, therefore making the NBN that we're building redundant. And for the waste engineers in this room, I want to add in zero-G plumbing. Someone needs to deal with the waste we have in our space. So for biotech, we have gene editing. We also have synthetic bio. Related somewhat to that is lab-grown meat. You may have heard of Memphis Meats, which is creating steak or meat patties without needing to grow a whole cow. So what they do is they take some of the cells out of a cow and then they culture it in a lab. And then within a matter of days or weeks, they can create meat which tastes exactly the same as if it came from a whole cow. They're also now currently working on creating lab-grown fish and also chicken as well. for those who don't like red meat. So for longevity therapies, we have a renowned Australian research scientist called David Sinclair. So he is still associated with UNSW, however, he currently works out at Harvard, and he's working on longevity therapies. Essentially, therapies which will enable us to keep our cells healthier for much longer, so that we could potentially prevent chronic diseases like heart disease, diabetes, or cancer. One that he's working on is called NMN, and it is considered a NAD booster. They're very scientific terms, but the key takeaway is that these could potentially help us live longer and maybe even forever if we chose to. Neurotranslation will also be a very big industry. So with the emergence of brain-computer interfaces like Elon Musk's Neuralink, we need somebody or humans who are able to decipher the data that's coming in and out of our brain, especially in relation to memories and experiences that we may want to share with others. We also have virtual worlds. You may have seen the movie Ready Player One, which is up here. So he wears a full haptic suit and he has his VR headset on. And basically, just as we have architects in the physical world creating or designing excellent buildings like this one we're in now, we also need architects for the virtual world and also the augmented world as well. And these worlds are quite complex. As you can imagine, like in the movie Inception, there's layers within layers within layers. These worlds can be more complex and more detailed than the one that we currently live in. Now, when it comes to digital twins, we also have 3D scanning technology, which can scan in your physical features. We also have technology which can capture all the non-physical traits of you, like your goals, your dreams, your personality, and that's exactly what a startup based in America is doing. It's called Rival Theory, and they're developing these digital twins, essentially a digital copy of you that you can play within video games. And that's it. So please find me on LinkedIn or email me if you'd like to keep in touch.
Thanks, Alyse. Well, I'm sure that's probably blown a few minds. Now, I'm going to invite all the speakers back for a panel session. Sandy, I might get you to give me a hand with the chairs. So we probably have only got about 10 minutes or so. Hopefully you guys have got some questions up your sleeve. Okay. Sean, Alyse, Robert, and Sandy. Okay, some questions, guys. They must have stimulated some thoughts down back there. Oh, you probably don't. You might have to sort of project your voice. I think we've only got one microphone.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
From here? So I guess this question pertains to more Ron and Alyse specifically. And so you have spoken about the disruptions that technology can bring to our physical, social, cultural environment, and even to our biology. And I have no doubt that technology can help us to create a more sustainable, equitable, and inclusive society, but I also know that it has the potential to exacerbate existing wealth gaps and social divisions and, God forbid, like start a eugenics movement or something. So I guess my question is, what would be the best frame of mind moving forward to harmonize the fears and excitements around these disruptions and still make constructive and ethical progress?
Maybe I'll kick that off. I think you have to take it in context of the industry that we're in. We would all love to think that our industries can be infinitely innovative, etc. But the real world is that we work in the built environment. So if we develop a software app, for example, that's got a bug in it, and we swipe and we end up with an accountant in the Liberal Party rather than the hot barista from Balmain that we're really hoping for, right? Then the consequences aren't too great. But if we have a bug in innovation within our industry and a bridge falls down or a building falls over, then the consequences are inherently exacerbated. So what we strike up against is taking great ideas to management who are inherently conservative for a very good reason. So my suggestion is don't be discouraged. Right? Keep those thoughts of innovation, but couch them in terms of benefits. So you can come up with a really cool idea, and we've all talked about some wonderful ideas tonight. Come up with a really cool idea, but you've got to say, how is this going to benefit my company? How's it going to benefit SMEC or WSB, our customers? Right? In terms of that innovation is going to reduce their costs or improve their social standing or increase our revenue, etc., etc. So take those great ideas and then temper them a little bit in terms of benefits that you're going to pitch to your manager. Because after a while, once you've taken the 10th great idea to your manager and got knocked back, you start getting a little discouraged. Right? So don't give up. But think about, okay, how do I couch this in terms that are really of benefit to our customer so that my manager can't refuse it? You know what I mean? So the wild ideas are fantastic, but it's the ones that actually get through management are the ones that really count for our customers. That's what I would say.
Alyse, do you have a comment?
So somewhat related to that is there's an increasing trend of companies who care about positive impact. For example, the company I work at, Palo IT, we want 30% of our revenues in the future to be coming from for-purpose companies. So we may even take on some pro bono projects as well if we really care about the impact that company is making. There's also Singularity University as well, which is looking at positive impact using exponential technologies. I didn't quite catch your question, but I will make this comment about how I believe that in the beginning, a lot of these technologies will probably only be able to access by the rich and the elite, but then eventually it tends to filter down to the masses. Like for example, you see this camera that we have on our smartphones. Now cameras are really expensive back in the day and only for the rich people, but now everybody has a camera in their pocket and it's become demonetized, I believe that is the term, where it's free. We buy the phone for the phone, but as a bonus, it also comes with a camera and a voice recorder.
Thank you. Just wanted to tap into the previous question. The New South Wales Chief Data Scientist actually talks about
Can people hear this question?
the New South Wales the New South Wales Chief Data Scientist actively talks about racist robots, so that our programs invest, whether they have sufficient reflexivity or not, a male, white, heterosexist normative into the programs and the deliverables they're creating. And even in the example that was presented by Alyse, I just sort of felt that you don't go on the North and South Pole and then move to Mars. You actually reduce your consumptive patterns to make Earth a lot better and to make those climate change targets. So is what we're proposing in this future just an extension of a really temporal white heterosexist male normative? And that's the way we're framing it. Or are there other solutions? That there's genuine diversity, genuine collaboration, where everyone's needs are met, and there are flat structures where the US empire doesn't win out in this round.
Right, I bet you everybody's busting to answer that one. Any volunteers, folks?
I think the term is utopia.
Well, I think, I'm not here to answer any questions. But does anybody want to have a genuine go at it? What about you, Sean?
I think it's pretty easy from my side because innovation in the waste game it's sexless, it's genderless. It doesn't actually matter. We all generate waste, so I dodged that bullet.
Look, I think it's a very good topic, and I think as young engineers, you've got to continue to challenge the status quo, essentially. Churchill had a very good thought, and that was, if you're young and you're not a radical, then you don't have a heart. But he subsequently said, if you're old and you have a brain, then you're a conservative. So my thought is, while you're young, you want to be a radical. You want to bring up those ideas. You want to challenge the current norms. Because believe me, once you hit 50 and you've got kids and you've got a mortgage, then some of that radicalness goes out the window. So take advantage of your youth, right? And challenge your managers, challenge the industry, and continue to ask, why do we do that, the way we're currently doing it? And I think it doesn't matter whether it's SMEC or WSP or any of the companies, internally we can all improve dramatically. And the reason is, we do the things the way we do it today because we've always done it that way. We go to managers and say, there are better ways, and they say, oh, we've been doing that for the last 20 years and it kind of works. Right? That's not good enough. The fact that that's the reason we've done it for the last 20 years is not a good enough reason to continue to do it that way. So my suggestion is, keep challenging. Do it in a respectful way. Don't go into a meeting and say, you're all a pack of idiots and we should be doing, right? That will get you nowhere, right? But put the arguments up, make them well-founded, put them in terms of customers, right? We're all here to service customers, right? And we're customer-focused. So my suggestion is, come up with great ideas, focus on the customers and the benefits to customers, and you'll get an audience from your manager. Now, you might have to put 10 great ideas up to get one, but continue to do it, because that's your job, you young engineers. You're supposed to think that everyone over 30 is an idiot, right? So that's your lot in life.
Can I just sort of suggest innovation and radicalism doesn't stop at 50, and speak a different language beyond 50 as well. But I have to endorse some of the comments that Ron's made. It's now that you need to delicately and respectfully push the boundaries, because we need you to. Further questions, folks?
A few of you spoke about sort of the return on investment. A few of you spoke about the return on investment of these projects and looking at, I guess, the financial outcomes. How do you frame an unknown and show this positive return, or to the managers of the company, yes, it's going to get you a good outcome. Yes, the clients will be happy. Yes, we will get money back from this.
Sandy, you haven't answered anything yet.
Yeah. I suppose that's a really good question, because it's probably the number one thing that I come up against. I think looking down the list here, generalising, a lot of us here this evening are from sort of engineering organisations in the consulting world. We work project to project, and that's one of the biggest challenges. You go with a great idea and people say, yeah, but we just need to get this project out the door. We can't afford it on this project. And that's a real challenge. As I said, I've been doing this for a while now, trying to bring these ones. The number one suggestion, or the thing that's worked for me, is pilots. Is trying to get little bits, little increment by increment, trying to chip away at these big problems by showing value. Once you've got the weight, and this is kind of why I was pulling those numbers the other day, because I was having to talk to people about it. Once you've got the weight of some of these numbers behind you, then people will be happy to invest on a project-specific base. But that's the real challenge, is looking at some of these innovation ideas as almost mini projects, mini startup ideas, where you've got to come up with a proof of concept. You've got to prove to investors, who 99% of the time are project managers, because that's the ones whose projects we're working on, not necessarily our line managers. But if you can get in the door, prove a little bit of value, because at the end of the day, our project managers are trying to deliver the best project for the cheapest price. If you can give them either the best project or something that's going to help them with the cheapest price, generally they'll start listening.
Apologies for monopolising, but it brings up a really good thought, is that if you're a young engineer and you've got a great idea, how are you going to get that up? Now, if you look across history, many of the great ideas are not by the mainstream companies, the big committees, except the skunk works. So you've got to be prepared to go out on your own and work on weekends and work on evenings and get a couple of your friends together with a great idea, right? And then work it through on your own time. And then you can take it to management and say, hey, look what we've done. Right? Many of the big organisations, it doesn't matter, I worked for IBM for many years, many of the great ideas that IBM came up with didn't come from the central organisation. It came from a few guys working on the weekends, or a few women who came up with good ideas, etc. So I would encourage you, if you've got some good ideas as to how to improve your businesses in your company with your customers, go and do it. Don't ask permission, right? And then take it back into management once you've actually proven something, and I think you'll be very effective.
Not that I would advocate this, Peter, but sometimes it's easier to seek forgiveness than permission. Look, is there one last burning question, and we'll wrap up after that.
I'm Peter Gagan from Geotron. Thanks so much for the panelists. Really exciting evening. I've got a bit of I'm an old white structural engineer, white male structural engineer, but they don't listen to me. But I suppose from a media point of view, in terms of waste management, I think all of us probably try to recycle and do the right thing. And we've got a couple of kids and they're sort of getting the 10 cents back and all that sort of stuff. It really hurts when you see we're shipping stuff to China and now it's rejected and shipping to Indonesia and of course it's contaminated, etc. in terms of waste management. So where have we gone wrong here? And I mean, it's so often simple things that we've got to get right. I mean, there's some great ideas that we've presented tonight, but really simple things like shipping waste overseas. Is it just a business case that just doesn't stack up to recycle properly back in Australia? I'm not in that space, but I'm just interested to hear something about it.
Waste is a bit of it wears two hats. One is a technical problem, which can easily be solved, and the other is a social problem. And it's that social problem that sort of, I guess, we as engineers find the hardest to grapple with. And you're right, you have 4 bins in your house, and you put your plastic in there, and you think you're doing the right thing, and then front page of the news is it's all just being dumped somewhere else with a picture of someone in Indonesia sort of flicking through your Coles bag. So that's the negative sort of feedback that you get that collapses the whole system. That does work, but only works with your support. So to answer your question on a technical point of view, and I'll go back into the social stuff, because whatever we're recycling is now sort of part of the resource market. It's an open market now. So no longer is it just your rubbish. It has the pools and pushes and pulls of a normal resource on an open market. So whoever's paying the most for it, that's where it goes. And if they don't like the product, it's got to go somewhere else. And Australia is in a bit of a, well, not a unique problem, but we've painted ourselves into a bit of a corner by getting rid of a lot of our base industries. We no longer can process those raw materials sort of in the country. It's got to go elsewhere. For example, glass. Its best use is just to go back into a bottle endlessly over and over again. But if you've only got one sort of glass manufacturing refinery, what are they called? They're called smelters. Then all of a sudden it's not so vital, and it's on the other side of the country. You're now open to a much bigger market. And the trick is knowing your product, who your buyers are, and spotting those trends. It's like any stock, you've got to ride the market and see where your product has the most value and how you can make small adjustments to increase its value. So if there was no social part involved in that, that would happen behind the scenes, that it would be shunted around the world. But the problem is, it's such a, we all produce it, so it's such a social sort of issue that anytime something goes wrong, it's fed back as negative feedback and become disillusioned. So I don't know what the solution is on the social front, but I guess it's more education and just letting people know how the whole market works. Everyone wants to be involved in the decision, so if you keep it more open and collaborative and people have the facts, I think you'll get a lot more traction.
Thanks for that. Clean waste is a massive issue, especially if people are feeling disillusioned by the process, then they'll just throw everything out. Can I ask you all to join me in thanking our four speakers? Hopefully some of you will hang around and are prepared to be collared by our colleagues out there. I'd also like to thank the FutureNet sponsors and the FutureNet team, and especially our Esther for her work here in SMEC, and for our marketing and reception teams for their assistance in making today happen. And of course, finally, thank you all for being here on a coolish winter evening. I hope you can stay and join us for some more refreshments. Thank you all.